this energetic space for as long as your spirit tells you to. And when you are ready to move in such a way that serves your body. Move in such a way that it feels good.
All right. That's Spiritual Essence Yoga, a hallowed place in the community. Many stories and many great, beautiful things I've heard through my personal relationship with one of your trainees. So this is Dana, the proprietor and owner and founder of Spiritual Essence Yoga. I just wanted to talk briefly just about your yoga journey. Tell me how you went from discovering yoga to creating this space.
So I call myself the Reluctant Yogi because I really didn't want to do yoga. I found it, or it found me, after 9/11. I was pregnant with my daughter, and I have a lot of family in New York, and there was one in particular I knew worked in the World Trade Center, and we couldn't contact her, and I was really stressed, and my blood pressure went up, and the doctor said, you need to do something because it's not about you anymore. So I started to complain around the office, and one of my coworkers, this very tall, thin, Asian woman, said, oh my gosh, you should try yoga. It's changed my life so much. And I'm looking at her, and I'm judging her, to be honest. And I really only started to practice to prove to her that it wasn't so great. Because I've never seen a woman of color, I've never seen someone of my body type. So I wanted to prove to her that, she didn't know what she was talking about. But I'll tell you, my first experience was with a VHS tape. And the only thing I could do, and I still have those tapes, and I still have a means to play it. But I remember sitting on the couch and looking at this yoga tape just to judge it. And then the instructor, Rodney Yee, he started to guide breathing. And at that time, I was pretty late into my pregnancy, and I realized that I had never really learned to breathe. And I was breathing, and I was connecting to my daughter, and I allowed myself to cry. But through the tears, there was like happiness, if that makes sense. And my healing began there, sitting on the edge of my sofa, very pregnant and breathing. So, I was reluctant because I thought that it was all of the myths and misconceptions that was fed to me, but it wasn't. It was about me. It was about my life. It was about me finding wholeness. And my daughter was the catalyst for what we have here today.
Okay, absolutely. Now this platform on the people versus anti-people, for those who may wonder, what does yoga have to do with the people versus the anti-people? The reason why I wanted to focus on you and profile you is because, two things. When you brought up the breathing, I had an experience last year with finding my breath, and I didn't realize that I don't breathe properly, and I haven't been breathing properly for several years now. And in a moment, at some point in time in the night, and I took a breath, and I breathed out, and I felt like cold. And I said, oh snap, I'm breathing the way I'm supposed to be breathing. And I was running around the house, breathing. I'm a performer, so I'm rapping lyrics because I found my breath. Yeah. And that's what kind of led me into taking yoga as a practice, or at least trying to take it as a practice. Because I said, if I can, live like this, I knew it was a breakthrough. So just me being a black man, having the same probably thoughts about yoga that you have, where it's kind of like this fitness thing, whatever it is, I'm not doing all of those headstands and all of that, and then finding out the connection between self and breath and coming back into yourself, how important that is for people in general, but especially the pressures that people in our community are facing. How important is it to find our breath?
So, as people of color, we're always on guard, right? We're always bracing ourselves for something to happen. We're always defending ourselves, fighting. What yoga does, it helps us to drop down that shield, because in this protection, it actually weakens us. So instead of like living the fullness of life, we're just preparing for this war, this constant battle, this stress. And you know what takes us out is like the blood pressure issues, heart disease. But yoga says that who you are is perfect and okay. So it's like our safe place. And our breath is something that the quality of it speaks to the quality of our life. So if we're not paying attention to our breath, we're not really in tune with who we are at a very deep cellular level. And we own our breath. We own our breath. So it's important for us to take the time and breathe because this is our life. We've been living life, again, on guard and preparing for battle and for war, whereas we have what we need to win anything. We have it, but we're so distracted and we're so frustrated, and a lot of us are angry, and the breath says it's all right, it's cool. So yoga has many different paths. Yoga can be you reading something that really feeds your soul. It can be you eating mindfully for your body. So there's many ways to practice it. So it's not the mat. It's us coming to a place of our personal power, and our breath is our power. When we're alive, first breath. When they decide that we're gone, last breath. Everything in between there has to be golden. It has to be, you know? And yoga is that practice to connect us to our power and our breath.
So from the discovery of yoga, creating a practice for yourself with yoga, why create a space?
Because when I started yoga, I would go into these spaces and I call myself the brown dot. And, you know, honestly, I think I made people uncomfortable because my body was postpartum after a baby, and I'd walk in there and everybody in the room would be surprised. Teacher and students like, oh, she's doing yoga? Mm-hmm. But there was something so strong in my spirit, and I always took my ancestors with me and said, you know what? You get the fruit and you discard what you don't need. Right. So the looks and the, you know, instructors touching me like I had something, or they can catch black, which is actually a good thing to catch. You know, I said, if I had the opportunity, I said I would love to create a space, a safe space. I couldn't get anyone in my family or none of my friends to come with me to yoga because I know I had changed my life and I know it would benefit them, but they would not come. No. And their thing was like, if I could teach them something and provide the space, that they would do it. So I started in my house. I started in my house, and then I just kept outgrowing my personal spaces, and that's why I was, you know, put into this place here.
Okay, so from the studio, from the practice to the studio, to then training other yogis. Tell me about that journey. I guess what I'm, you know, impressed about, or what was impressed upon me in learning your story was, and the stories of just many people and people that we profile on this platform, is the need to then share and bring our people into this wisdom or this practice or whatever the case may be. And I'm fascinated by people who just don't harbor things for themselves and decide to open and share and bring people in, because the development of all of us is, you know what I mean, like necessary.
It's important.
Right.
So one thing that, and I'm blessed that, you know, my dad, and he's still with us, he taught me that there's enough for everyone, and that, you know, the greatest thing that you can do is teach someone they be better than you. So he taught me that. He said, I'm teaching you to be better than me. I can't serve everyone. So in 2008, there was a greater need that I could serve. So I decided to train others. And I wanted to train others in such a way that they can make everybody feel comfortable, no matter what culture, no matter their background, no matter their body. You know, my teaching is just to really embrace yoga and the diversity. So I started training other teachers in 2008 and just passing the torch. And as they all go forth and teach and open studios, I'm like, yes. So my legacy is going to continue long past me, and I'm like so excited about that. I love it when people come and ask for advice, and I can help them in a way that they don't have to suffer and beg for the information. So I didn't have a mentor. No one would help me back in the early 2000s. No one wanted to tell me just the basic things. I had to find it out on my own, and I had to invest a lot of money. So my thing is, I don't want anyone to have to go through that. It feels good to share. And there's enough for everybody, there really is.
Well, that's funny. You're a healer and an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So when does that clash, or one would say, I'm not training any more yogis because I don't need a whole bunch of black yogis out here taking my clientele from me. So why, again, feel the need to share?
Because it feels good, and you can't take something that's not rightfully yours. So it's like relationships. No one can steal your man or your woman. They were never yours, and you were never really truly aligned. If something is aligned for my highest good, it's gonna be mine. So I've even trained people that I can throw a rock and hit their space. And they're not taking anything from me. So the issue is when you believe that someone can take something from you, you start to create that energy and you start to attract that taking. What I believe is that as I give, I receive twofold. So I do, I love to share the secrets, and the secret is be yourself. That's really what makes you successful in this yoga world. It's like be yourself. And knowing that no one can be me, I have no problem sharing.
What I've noticed with this studio and with your practice is the returning. It's like you send these, soldiers of yoga out into the world, and they always return. And this has become like a home base for, my girl Rachel and Tanisha, who owns Sankofa Yoga in Laurel. And these folks come back, they participate, they mentor. What does that say about you? And I'll ask them as well, but what do you think that says about you? And also, what does that say about them? Because you're training folks, they're coming in, they're seeking you, and then they become like these, I don't know, like I said, disciples or like these soldiers, and they preach your gospel. This is me observing this. I'm not even, they preach your gospel. And so was that intentional? Did you know that about you? Did you know that?
I didn't, but what I do know is family is very important to me, and someone that's going to invest money and time in sitting with me, they're my family. So it's like this, they can make it out the hood, but you always have that connection. You always come back for family reunion, you always come back, and I see it like that, where I'm building family relationships, not just, take this training and buy. Because I know it took me now about 20 years to get where I am, and they're still just starting. There's so many fluctuations, so many things that happen, and they've not experienced it yet. So I keep my door open, saying I'm here when you need, and I need them to help me stay fresh and keep me on my toes as well. So it's building a family relationship. It's never about you pay your money, you take the course, you get your certificate, and you go. It's like phase one of our relationship. Let's grow together, and that's really important to me. And I've always been very passionate about people, but with yoga, it's shown me a way that I can not only help someone grow, but I help myself grow too. Because it's a huge responsibility for someone to sit at your feet and want to learn. So you have to keep yourself, learning and growing at the same time. So it's family. Doors are always open. Doors, arms, heart, everything.
Beautiful, beautiful. Speak to the balance, again, of being a yogapreneur, right? Because you have all the inspiration in the world, you want to do all these wonderful things, you want to create this space for our community specifically so that there is diverse representation, but that doesn't mean you know how to run a business. Where did you get the entrepreneurial chops from?
Mr. Henry Smith, my daddy, he is to this day an entrepreneur. He owned a catering business, and he had a couple of side hustles, and he taught me that you have to really show up. Whatever you have going on, whatever pains and aches and whatever emotional upsets you have, no one is paying you to see that. So you do what you have to do to resolve it, and you move forward. I think what happens in the yoga world, especially for those that are professionals and all of a sudden they make the switch, you have to carry your professional self into the yoga world because it's a business. The healing part of it, you can be a healing entrepreneur, but you have to keep the lights on. So it's like there's a concept, yin and yang. So yin being that earth that, call it granola crunchiness. And the yang being like, you gotta pay these bills and keep these lights on. What structure needs to be set up? Discipline is very important in yoga. So to marry that entrepreneur hat and that yoga hat is saying this. When I teach them, it's coming from my healing self. When I sit to see what the next program is going to be so that things can continue to flow, that's where my entrepreneurial hat comes on. Every day I feed both. I'm more whimsical in the morning. So the morning is creating the yoga programs. In that afternoon, it's okay. So how are we gonna keep things flowing? So I sit down with a spreadsheet.
You get to business, right,
Yep.
right. So we talked about, and you touched on diversity in yoga in terms of color,
Yes.
but there's also diversity in yoga regarding body image.
Most definitely.
You've created a platform, Yes Yoga Has Curves, to speak to that.
Yeah.
So talk about representation in yoga from both a color aspect and also a body image aspect. Sometimes they intertwine
And it
because we
does.
tend to have a certain
We
body
tend to
type.
have fuller bodies.
Right.
So when I started the Yes Yoga Has Curves movement, it was because one of my students, who is a woman of color, she started to complain about her practice, certain things that she was just not doing because she would bump up against her body. She said, well, I can't do this because I have that. And I can't do this because I have this. And I said, you can do this because, you are yoga. And she said, well, yoga don't got butt and yoga don't got hips and yoga don't got... I said, yes, yoga has it all. Yes, yoga has curves. And then something went, maybe everybody needs to hear this.
Right.
So I did just like an open call, and I had like 50 women of all shapes, sizes, and cultural backgrounds come in. And at that point, I realized that people outside of the family, they have these same issues. Mm-hmm. That this image of yoga is not really attainable for most people. Right. That if we had to say, on a percentage scale, maybe that's 20% of the representation, but they just get all of the media. Right. And yoga is a way for you to feel good about your skin because not everyone is meant to be penciled in, but not judging those that are. So I needed a way to shift focus so that people would see representation and be more inclined to practice. And even my student that gave me all those complaints flipped through the books and saw someone that represented her body's right. shape and said, maybe I can take things up a notch. So it's all about representation, as you know.
As you've journeyed and with the trainings and then with students, talk to me about whether it's specific or not, just things or moments that made you really feel proud or just validated, not with you, but with the work.
Just seeing Rachel and Tamisha out there and knowing their story from the beginning, knowing the working a 9-to-5, stressed out, don't even really have a yoga practice, but something keeps pulling them back to the mat, knowing that some guidance that I gave them ignited something within their soul, and now they're doing a damn thing. Out in Costa Rica teaching yoga and building studios, that makes me take a step back and say, yeah, this is something. This really is something. And it always comes around a time where I feel overwhelmed of okay, I can really easily go back to a 9-to-5. And then I get an affirmation or someone will post something and tag me and just give me, just such beautiful words of gratitude. I'm I am doing, the Creator's work.
The beautiful and unique thing about, I think, what you do is your kind of holistic approach to training, because you're not just training yogis, you're also mentoring on the business end.
Yeah.
Where did you get, obviously from, your own journey running the business, but a lot of people just send these yogis out into the world and then they're supposed to figure out the business side of it, but you've kept the door open for them to come back in and learn the actual business of yoga. Why did you find that to be important?
Because I want them to continue to succeed. Because I knew at some point they would be at this crossroads where the yoga is not going to carry it. That there has to be something else structured to survive. And what happens when you don't have that structure is that you get yoga burnout and then you start to curse the practice. So I wanted them to survive and I wanted them to be successful, not just for now, but forever.
Speak to me as a young brother from the environment, dealing with the stressors of the environment. everything that we know, that we
Yeah.
turn on the news. We got our government, we have our police force, we have our everything kind of on our back. Why yoga?
It reminds you how powerful you are no matter what. It reminds you that no one can steal your power. They can distract you from it, but they can't steal it. They can put your body in chains, they can put you in jail, but they cannot steal your power. And we've been distracted from it. So my mission is to teach people that you are powerful. No one can take anything from you. They can just distract you.
So yoga sits as kind of, when we talk about returning home for the trainees, but really it's returning home to yourself,
Yeah,
grounding yourself,
That's
and
right.
knowing that you can
that's
move
right.
forward.
You can move forward.
Okay, okay, okay.